Hey guys, welcome to episode 27 of the Empowered Hearts podcast. Today we have a really special guest, Hannah Troyer, who is an author, a tarot reader, an energy worker, an Akashic Records channel, and she helps people return to themselves through esoteric modalities. So welcome, Hannah.
Welcome. It's so good to have you.
It's so good to be here. Thank you guys.
So you've written a book. How, like,
I have.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I can kind of explain a bit about, like, I call it an accident sometimes that I wrote a book. Um, but I can kind of explain the process of how that came to be if you want. So it's a book called A Journey Through the Tarot. It's a book on the tarot. And I wrote it in February of this year. And I didn't like sit down and plan, like, okay, I'm gonna write a book. I actually had a different creative project that was like totally different in mind. But what I did was I took all of the major arcana cards of the tarot and I set them all out and I laid them out in order. Um, and I had this like major download click where I was like, whoa, I get this. Like, I understand what's going on here. And I saw it all as a story. Like, I saw it as this literal journey through like the human experience.
mm.
And so I started writing, like literally that night. I started writing and I opened a Google Doc and I was like, all right, here we go. And I started just writing little blurbs about each card. And I wrote it as a story and as a journey. And I think I stayed up until like 3 a.m. that night. Like, I just like was writing. I didn't want to like, lose the inspiration and lose the channel. So
Mhm.
I wrote the entire major arcana in one sitting. And then I kind of like took a break and was like, okay, maybe I should do the whole deck. I should do the suits. I should write this all out. And I did. And then I happened to have a friend who was starting a publishing company and she asked if she could publish my book. And I said, well, I don't really have like a book. Like, I just wrote this stuff. And she was like, no, this is a book.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
yeah, so she took it, and I'm literally forever grateful for her and her publishing company, and she's amazing. But yeah, she took it and basically like put it in book format, and she was like, this is like 130, 140 pages, like it's a book, you wrote a book. And she has like taken it and done more than I could have ever even imagined. It would have lived in my Google Docs forever if I would have like not actually known, had her come to me and say like, hey, do you want to do something with this? So that's how the book came to be, was I got like an instant download and then I happened to have a beautiful friend who published it for me. So
That's beautiful.
That is really beautiful.
I feel like you know this because I've been bugging you, but like I am really trying, and I know that trying to learn something is not like, maybe that's not it. Like when it comes to intuitive things, like I feel like we should listen to our innate gifts. And so me trying to learn tarot is probably means that tarot is like not my thing, but I'm like, but I want to, like, I want to be like a person that you come to and I do a tarot reading. Like that just, it seems so exciting.
yeah.
Like, oh, I want to read tarot. And
Yeah.
I read and I'm like, beep, 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 beep. Like it's like mechanical. Like it's not smooth.
hmm Well, it starts out, like when I started reading tarot, I didn't know anything about anything. Like, I opened the guidebook that came with the deck, or like I would Google, like, what does, Three of Swords mean or whatever. And that was where, like, it clicks, which I think is where a lot of people are. It's probably what you've experienced, where like you do, pull cards and then you read the meaning and you're like, oh, wow, like that totally makes sense. Like something here works, but there's still that disconnect between like, what does this actually mean? And I have to learn it, before I can
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
make
think
it
it's
make
like the
sense.
whole story, like being able to, like, sometimes I'll pull a couple cards and I'm like, yeah, I get it. And then others I'm like, but how do they like relate to each other? It's the
Yeah.
reading. And that really is an art. That really is an art. So what's your book about?
So the way that I structured my book, and it's still funny to me to like talk about it that way, but the way that I wanted it to come across, or the way that I wrote it, is as a story that you can actually put yourself in. So if you've ever, read or looked at a book on the tarot, most of them will be all the cards, and they'll probably have like, some different spreads that you can do and explaining some of those. And then they have probably a page or more about what the card means. So it's like, okay, if you pull Three of Swords, this is what it means. And if you pull it in reversed, this is what it means. Or it could mean this, or it could mean that. And the way I didn't want to write a book like that. There's so many books on the tarot like that, that what I wanted to do was really capture like the essence of the card and write it in a way where you could actually put yourself in the story. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure kind of thing, where you can like really get like, you're reading about whatever, Three of Swords. That's apparently the card for today that keeps popping in my head. You can read like what the energy of that is like for you, so it's like, it's just a short little blurb. It's a few paragraphs, but instead of saying this is what the card means, it's this is the experience of this card. This is the energy of this card. And it's gonna mean something like a little different to everyone, because we're all different. So you may take aspects of it that are different than someone else, but that's okay, because even if you're reading for someone else, someone's not going to come to you unless they resonate with who you are. And so it's like it's okay that you and I see the Three of Swords differently. And I want people to learn the tarot in that way, where they're empowered to actually like, say it, it doesn't matter what the other books say. This is how I experience the energy of this card based on my human experience.
You love that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it ready to be like, because I want a book. So can
yes.
I the book?
I know everyone wants the book. So it will be September 12th is when you can actually order the physical book, which is so soon. And right now you can purchase it as an ebook. It's on Amazon. And then I also did an audiobook version of just the major arcana. If you like to listen, it's like a short listen. It's like 20 some minutes. So if you like to listen to things, I did an audiobook version of the major arcana. So
that's so
exciting. And you can buy it on Amazon, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
What does the Three of Swords mean? Maybe this is like represent.
Yeah.
What is this?
It's funny because the Three of Swords has this like negative connotation. Like it's one of those cards that people get all scared of. It's the one with like, if you see it in the Rider-Waite deck, it's like the heart with the swords in it, and usually what people take that to mean is like some painful, there's like a painful time or like painful memories are being brought up. Painful patterns maybe are like coming back up for you. And a lot of people will take it to mean like, you're being closed off, or you're holding grudges, you're having a difficult relational time. And I actually take it to have like a deeper meaning of you're being called to be vulnerable because these things are coming back up. Like if you think of the heart with the swords in it, it's like, okay, like that's pretty damn vulnerable, like you have to be like open. There's no rib cage around the heart or anything. Like it's just like this open heart where it's like, hey, you can be okay. You can have these swords in your heart and like still be okay, and still love from that place. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's coming up for people. Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I didn't even have to pull cards, and it's
just channeling.
Yeah.
So Hannah, can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up like, doing reading tarot and Akashic reading, etc. Like, who are you?
Yeah. Oh God. Okay. So I grew up in a very Christian, evangelical Christian setting. Up until I was actually, oh God. So basically 2020 was like my turning point. I was 26, I think, in 2020. And at the time, I was very involved still in church and in Christianity. And I was married at the time I was married to my former husband. We had gotten married like basically right out of high school. We were like 20, or I think we were 20 when we got married, which was like just kind of the thing you did in our culture. And no ill will, like we actually like are friends now and we get along and we have a good relationship, but we just got married super young because that's what you did. And so 2020, like literally like the spring of 2020, when the lockdown started and everything started shifting, I had what I call my spiritual awakening. Um, and my intuition just kind of turned on. And the first thing that happened was I got this like voice in my head that was like, you need to end your relationship. Like you need to go. There's things that you can't do that like you need to leave this so that you can actually go do those things, which was terrifying to me at the time because I was still very in that like Christian church, small town culture. But I just like couldn't deny this intuition that I was feeling, and it was different than anything I had ever felt. So I did end our relationship. I ended up moving in with my little sister. I quit going to church at the time, which was kind of a progression. I had been a little bit on my way out, but I finally like said, no, I'm not going back. I quit that. I also quit my job and like all my creative projects at the same time. And I did this like life reset, basically. I was like, there's something I have to do and I need to like clean the slate to be able to do it. So I spent a lot of time in that like void space, kind of like that sort of dark night of the soul. Like, what am I doing? And I started to find like ways to express and experience this spirituality because I couldn't deny, like I left church and I left evangelicalism and Christianity and all that stuff, but I still couldn't deny that there was something there. I was like, what is this voice that is talking to me, that is telling me these things that like I need to do and they're working, like I'm following it and it's working out. So like, what is that? So I kind of went down all these rabbit holes of different things and trying on different modalities and labels. And I found the tarot, and I for a while was into witchcraft for a while. I tried that on. I was like, oh, maybe I'll do spells. Let's see how this goes. And basically all of it was just leading it back to me. Like it was leading it back to, you need to do this inner work. You need to transform yourself and know yourself at this deep, deep, deep level, because ultimately you are going to help other people do that, which is what I do now. Like 4 years or almost 5 years after that experience. So I've just been like collecting all these things, these modalities, energy work and tarot and Akashic Records and all these things that actually helped me. Those are the things that I now use to help empower other people. So that's the short story of the crazy last 5 years.
That's amazing. Was it hard for you to leave the church? Like how did how did you end up, how did you leave and what did you experience?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult. I think I saw like when COVID hit, right? It was almost like this, I had been trying to get out of like the church and this lifestyle that I was living, in these like small little ways, trying to weasel myself out. And then COVID hit and it was like, this is it, like go now or you're going to be in this forever. And so I really just like ran, like I was like, okay, this is my break. I'm ready to go. But it was hard because I found myself feeling really, really lost for a long time, because that was my entire framework, worldview, was Christianity, was the Bible, was these rules and all these cultural things that I didn't even realize were there, that when I left, I was like, I literally just was like, where the hell do I land after this? So it was hard, and it was hard as well because my parents are still very much in the church. They actually went like further in. When I left, they went even further in the whole church thing. And there was a lot of difficulties in our relationship. And there was a big lack of support there, like when I probably needed it most.
Yeah.
Getting divorced and changing all these things. And they were just like, so they still are like not about what I do. We still have a relationship, but yeah, there was a lot of difficulty with like not knowing where to land and not having like that safety net and that support system that I always had. But there was still that undeniable like intuitive voice that was like that was the thing that was holding me, like that intuition, that higher self is like what I would call it now. That was the thing that I found was holding me through the entire crazy transition.
Mhm.
And now along your journey, Hannah, have you met people that are similar to you that you've come really close to? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like
I
you've
have
made
met
your own
people.
little support. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have definitely, and that speaks to the whole frequency thing too, like once you start becoming confident in that, like that is what you will draw in. So I've definitely met people who have had similar experiences and have similar mindsets. But the really beautiful thing is that I have met people who have had or are having similar experiences to where I was. And I am able to actually become like that hand that they can hold and walk them through, which that I didn't have, like I was just like floundering, and I'm like, oh God, if I can just help one person, through that difficult transition, then I'd be good. And I've been able to do that, which is beautiful.
That is really beautiful.
I wonder if like this is just coming through now. I wonder if like if you help people like who feel like they need to get out of like being in church or their religion and being that bridge. Like I maybe this is like obvious to you and I don't know why I'm saying this, but have you ever thought about that?
No, and it's so funny. I mean, you literally just hit the whole thing on the head right there. And you said bridge, which is
Yes.
a lot of times how I have seen myself
Hmm.
is as a bridge. Because the thing that like I still can't deny is that there are so many parts um of the whole like Christian thing, like the Jesus story and the Bible and the prayer and the different like traditions. Like I love that shit. Like I read the Bible, I think it's beautiful. I have a totally different perspective now that I can come to it with, but I mean honestly, I have, even since I quit church, like I have gone back and been able to find so much beauty in like hymns and all of these. Like I can listen to a sermon and be like, oh yes, like I can see that. And I can also see the same beauty in a tarot card pull that is like bringing you back to you. It's like if it's bringing you back to the truth of yourself, I don't care where it comes from. Like truth is truth.
Yep.
So I feel like there's a lot of people who have been so tragically hurt by religion and church, and I totally get that, and I've been in that as well. But I feel like part of my unique story is that I can help people to like be able to hold both. Like you don't have to hold that hurt, and you don't have to say like screw this, I'm not, like I'm not doing anything if it has to do with church and God and all this stuff. It's like you actually can just have both. You can have all the beauty. So yeah, I do see myself as a bridge that like almost like a rainbow, like
Yeah.
you can have both. You can have it all. It's all
Yeah, because I
beautiful.
mean, I'm sure there are people that probably may or maybe don't want to be, in the religion they're in, but like you
Yeah.
said, like don't have any other way of expressing, or it really is very cultural based, right?
It
And
so is, yeah.
so it's like spreading the word of you can have this and like maybe some of the things like I do have a friend of mine that lives locally, and he's very his family's like they're churchgoers, and we talk about it, and I'm like, well, how do you feel about certain things? And he's like, well, I just roll my eyes at it. So it's like being able
Yeah.
to not hate, I guess, if you will, quotations, or you're not a bad person because of certain choices, and being able to help people. Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
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 It's beautiful.
Yeah. That's my favorite is being able to hold all of that. And I have even done like, I find myself doing a lot of readings and energy work and working with a lot of clients who still would call themselves Christians, or like I had a reading just a few weeks ago. There's a coffee shop locally that I do little like walk-in readings, and this guy came up to me and he said, I'm Catholic, but I'm really interested in what you're doing. Like, do you think that it would be okay if you could explain some stuff to me, and maybe we'll do a reading if it feels okay? I'm like, yes, yes. Like, this is my favorite thing. Like, tell me your story about this and tell me your experience and I'll tell you mine. And, yeah, he's like, I don't think I'd be able to do this with anyone else. And I'm like, great. Like we found each other. It's the frequency thing showing up. So yeah, it's so fun when all that bridges together.
So what is like, I kind of know, but could you explain, like, for people that maybe are listening, what is an Akashic Records channel?
Yes. Okay. So the Akashic Records, the Akashic Records are basically, it's a quantum database is how I like to describe it. So it's something that you reach and access in meditation. And it's the easiest way to describe it is basically like when you go to this place in meditation, you see it as a library. I see it at least as a library. And everybody has records of their soul's existence, right? You've had many lifetimes here, and there's a record of all that in like the quantum field, essentially. And so what I do is I can access that through meditation, and I can help give you answers about different past lives, answer all of these questions about this thing and that thing. But what I really like to do, it can get really messy and really like crazy out there because it's like all the information that's ever been known. What I really like to do is actually give you information about your soul's purpose through the Akashic Records. So it's very similar to like a psychic reading, but with a psychic reading, you can just get like so many things going on. It's like your grandma is coming in to tell you this thing, and this past life and that past life, and it can just get really chaotic. And with the records, I feel like I'm able to really be of service to like your soul's purpose, like to just you, rather than opening up to like anything and everything that wants to come through. So that's why I use the records in that way, is to help people access like that purity of like what your purpose is.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So fascinating. Yeah, like I thought, like, I think my understanding of it was, yeah, it's like the quantum field of everything and
Yeah.
everything and everything and everything forever and ever and before. Like, it's all at once.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I guess it would be interesting, like how would you know what to pull and share? Like, are things louder when you like, can you see it? Like, I know when crystal goes into energy,
Yeah.
like, I hope I don't botch this, crystal, but like you can see auras and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
so for you, it's like you can see, oh God, I don't know. Like, how would it be different?
I see it. It's a little different for each person, depending on, like, it is very much like going into energy. Like, I'm going into the energy of what your records are. And so there are some times where I see colors, I see symbols. Sometimes I will see your spirit guides. It depends on, like, I do like a prayer basically before I go into the records. And I say, like, only allow the truth to come through, the truth that is for your highest good. I have all these like intentions that I set so that it is like more streamlined. It can get like crazy if it's not. Like you said, it's just like how the library of everything that's ever
Yeah.
existed. So yeah, I see it. I basically see what is for each person's highest good, like what they need to know right now in the way that is going to make sense to them. So like sometimes I'm like, I don't know why I'm seeing this, but I'm seeing, I'll explain some symbolism and they're like, oh my God, that's what, it'll make sense to them. I'm like, great. It just needs to make sense to you because I'm of service to you and your soul right now. So yeah, it's not just like an overload all at once. I try to, channel it in.
That's so interesting. And like, is it like a long reading? Like, would it be like
Um,
long, or is it just like,
so the way that it can get really long and drawn out, and it gets a little exhaustive at that point where like you're getting into, I don't like to do readings that are any longer than an hour just because it's getting into things you probably really don't need to know.
Mhm,
Like we do not need to go into every past life you've ever had. Like we don't, like we just
mhm.
need to know what we need to know right now so that you can take the next steps in your life.
Yep.
And have that higher perspective. But usually the way that I have been doing them, they can go anywhere from like 10 or 15 minutes to like, 45 minutes to basically an hour tops. And I answer questions
Mhm.
like during the reading. Like if I'm doing an in-person reading, I'm like kind of in and out where like I give you the information and then my client can say like, what about this or what about that? And I can kind of like act as the channel basically to, access, okay, what about this? And I'll get some information about that and be able to share it. So they can get long if people are like, whoa, wait, I want to know everything. I'm like, no, we got to cut it off. You don't need to know everything.
That is so fascinating. I'm like, my
Yeah.
brain, like, I'm like, like, should I do this?
I mean, it's fun. And I will say like, it's like it's a serious thing. I kind of went into it and was like, oh, like this will be awesome. I love information. Like I can know everything now. And I like got a rude awakening with it because
Mm.
I mean, I ended up after a couple months of just willy-nilly, oh, I'm going to the Akashic Records, it'll be fine. I ended up with some entity attachments and I ended
Mhm.
up with energy being siphoned, and I would leave readings and be like, literally I'd go to sleep because I was
Mhm.
like so drained. So I really had to like take it seriously. Um, because yeah, it really is a very serious thing.
Mhm.
But it is also very fun and a great way to be able to help people actually understand who they are and what they came here to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, before we had Hannah on, I asked if she could do a reading for our listeners.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you want to do a
Oh
reading
my
for our
God.
listeners, and then I will take a reading. And if Crystal wants a small, like I'll take a small one if you feel called, or if there's anything that you else want to share, like let me know. But yeah, this is really
No,
fascinating. Akashic Records. I am currently in, like, I guess, training to learn my own gifts. So rather than like learning, like I said, like forcing myself to learn the tarot, I'm taking a different approach. I'm like, what am I naturally good at? Like what,
yes.
and I find information will come, like I'm a knower. So I'm just like blah, 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 like the bridge thing, like things will come through and it's just so bang on. But I want to, I guess, hone the skill.
No, for sure. And I think too, like, I mean, that's totally where I came to it too, where I was like, okay, like I do this stuff, but like, what is it? And how do I actually like, bring it in to be able to help people with it?
Mhm.
Because like I literally have been doing this forever. Like I I have always seen people's higher self. I didn't know that
Mhm.
was what I was doing, but like I would tell people things about themselves and they're like, oh, how did you know that? Or like
Mhm.
how that's more true than like I've ever even been able to like understand myself. I'm like, I don't know. Like I guess I just give good advice, like whatever. but no, it is a journey to be able to like figure out what am I actually good at? What have I been doing my whole life anyway? And
Mhm.
how do I, kind of rope it in and label it and make it like a package to be able to help people. And that is the work really, because I can go into the records and be like, you're supposed to be this. And people are like, so what job is that? You
Mhm.
know?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
feel like Crystal's extremely intuitive. Like she's
Mhm.
like when she can see things. Like she's like, oh, like this is here. She's like, I can see like what do you say? You can see like people's like bones and
Mhm. Yeah, I can just zoom into anything.
Yeah, that's so cool. I don't do it as much like that. And I
Mhm.
wish I did, which is like bad because then that takes me away from my thing that I do. But no, almost like a medical intuitive or like a
Yeah, I don't, it's really, it's kind of like comes back to the question of what do you do?
yeah,
And it's like, a lot
yeah,
of things.
right.
But I can see pretty much like energy, the chakra centers, the nervous system, the vein system, the tissue, the everything.
Yeah.
I can see all of it.
So cool.
It is really cool because if I like go into someone's energy, you're just kind of guided there.
yeah,
It's not like, right? Like you can ask them what
yes,
their symptoms are, but it's like you're just guided to where you're meant to go. And I feel like that's kind of just life in general, right? Like Morgan, like you're saying, like you just want it to unfold naturally. And I feel like that is honestly the best way to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That it's just going to come to you and it's just going to click and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. This is who I am.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, otherwise you're basically just like you might think that you're getting there faster,
Yeah.
but you're just like putting yourself on a detour
Yeah.
basically, because like the
Yeah.
thing is going to come to you
Mhm.
when it needs to come to you anyway. So you
Hmm.
could be like running around like, oh, I need to figure it out and I need to research and I need to read all these books and I need to do this stuff. Or you could just like trust that it's going to come to you at the right time and
Yeah.
do what you were going to be doing anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a lesson to myself as well.
Mine too.
Yeah. Because I love to freak out and try to act like I need to know everything all at once. So,
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
I'm like that too.
yeah.
Mm.
I think we all are to a point, and because it's just we've been told and we've been conditioned that like you have to figure out what your job is and what are you going to do and you have to support yourself and you have to, you know, be like this. And it's like I don't know, I feel like we all kind of have so many of these like goo stages where we're like the caterpillar being in the goo and
Mhm.
we're like, oh, like I have to figure it out. It's like, no, just
Mhm.
be goo, honey. Like you're okay. You're gonna be a butterfly no matter how much you freak out. Like just
You can't
That's
rush it.
that's a
yeah.
meme. You should make that. You should make that. That is a meme. Like
Oh God,
that is gold.
I've been thinking, I'm like, man, I need to make more memes because those are so relatable and I love them. So okay, look for that meme on my page soon.
Yes.
Okay, so I have some cards that I pulled if you guys want to see what we've got going on here. I pulled 3 cards for the collective that is receiving this podcast right now. The first one that I pulled is the World card. So the World card is the last card in the Major Arcana, and it symbolizes the end of a big chapter, the end of some type of stage that you've been in. Usually it's about like some inner work, like you've completed something internally and now you are at this phase where like okay, you've completed it, recognize that you complete it, the door is closing and the next door is like not all the way open yet, but like it is opening. Like doors are always like opening and closing in tandem, but you're in that like in between space where you're like, okay, what's going to be next? I don't know what it is, but I know something's ending and I know I'm moving towards something else. So that's the World card. The King of Wands is also coming up, which tells us to, it basically is just a reminder to understand your own authority, like understand that all these opportunities have come to you and are going to continue to come to you. And you have to recognize that you you don't there's nothing else to like really worry about. Almost like what we were just talking about. Like you already
Mhm.
know, like you don't need to learn anymore. You don't need to freak out. You are the authority over what you're already good at doing. You know, like there's no one else that's better at being you than you. So remember that that is what you're good at. And then the Five of Cups is coming up. Actually, no, the Six of Cups. I'm sorry. The Six of Cups is coming up, which is interesting. I've done a couple like collective readings in the past few weeks, and the Six of Cups does keep coming up, which is so interesting. And it tells me it's a very collective energy, where we're almost like returning to like what made you happy when you were a kid? Like what did you love to do? What was like that, like what brought you that joy and what brought you those like big emotions when you were a kid, and returning to that place, not from like we've all like done therapy, we've all done our childhood trauma, like we've been doing
Mhm.
that since like however 2015 or whatever, all been going to therapy. But like what if we could return to that childhood, that inner child place, and figure like look at it from that different perspective of like what gave you joy, what lit you up, because that is still the same thing that lights you
Mhm.
up now, and
Mhm.
that is actually your guide to where you need to go in your life. So
I love
This
that.
is so on purpose. Like I mean, this is for sure what I'm moving through, but Crystal and I were like the podcast that just dropped was
Mhm.
yeah.
all about understanding the inner child.
Yep.
And and Crystal has been sharing like for the past couple of weeks, like the inner child needs to be coming up. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow,
It's
I love
amazing.
that. No, I love that so much. And just to kind of like pull in this idea of the journey, you know, like the journey of the tarot. If we look at the Six of Cups and we think about what that energy is, it's the energy of returning to the inner child, to nurturing that, to returning to those thought processes. What comes right before it is the Five of Cups, which is about learning to leave behind the things that don't serve us anymore.
Mhm.
It's being able to actually like come to a full awareness of like, okay, I know where I'm going. I can see my purpose out in the distance, but to be able to keep moving on my journey, I need to let go of some things and like be okay with some of the things that have happened to me in the past, be okay with leaving that baggage behind. And that's kind of the thing that
Mhm.
unlocks being able to look at it from this new perspective of like, okay, I can go back to my childhood and I don't have to carry all that baggage with me every time I go back. And I can actually look at this from this different perspective.
Mhm.
And that's, you know, that's how I kind of like to, that's how the book is structured and how I like to see it is like what comes before and after. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
The way you just
Thank
articulated
you.
that makes so much sense. Like the Five of
Yeah.
Cups, the Six of Cups. Like I understand I keep wanting to say bridge. I don't know where it's like
It is.
you're a bridge. You're a bridge. Um,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, we've all, you know, we've all done tarot pulls and had readings and you know, we Google what the meaning is and we've been taught, I think, when it comes to the tarot to either trust someone else to tell us, you know, like this is
Yeah.
what the card means and we never even try to learn ourselves, or we are taught that they are isolated events. And like honestly, this is how I feel like the society in general, even like you know traditional talk therapy or the medical system, this is how they see issues. It's like you have this issue, this symptom, this is how we're going to solve it. And that's like how the tarot has been taught. That's how tarot books will tell you, like, this Six of Cups means this, the Five of Cups means that. But like, there is a bridge, there is a thread that connects everything. And that, I mean, that's with anything, you know, that's with, you know, your mental health, your physical health, your human experience in general. There are always threads interweaving and connecting everything. And the tarot is really no different.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. I'm gonna get your book. I'm gonna wait till it comes out and get the hard.
Yeah, I am so excited. I like can't even believe it's going to be a book. Like I like don't feel like I will believe it until I'm holding it in my hands. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I can pull maybe like another card for each of you guys. Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
we'd love that. Thank you.
Cool. Let's see what comes up. Okay. We're gonna do crystal first. Okay, so the Nine of Wands is coming up for you. So the Nine of Wands is when you're at a time where you've probably had you've put in a lot of work somewhere. Like you've like really put in a lot of work in a certain opportunity that you've been given. And now you're almost at a time where you're like, okay, what do I do with this? Like I've had a lot of experiences with this. I've had a lot of like water go over this bridge, and like now I need to take a step back and like see if I need to change directions, or if I need to structure this differently, or is this actually like best for my energy? Like what do you're almost like at a time where you're just kind of pulling back internally maybe, and just like trying to figure out like, is this actually the best for me? And how do I structure, if not, how do I structure it so that it's not only serving me, but also able to serve other people as well. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is another card people like don't like because it looks like, I don't know, like mean and scary, but it's really not. It's just about a time where you're pulling inward and you're like trying to like really put some pieces in place. And it's actually a beautiful energy, because it's actually showing how much work you have put into something, and how much commitment that you've had to that, and taking some time to figure out how to structure that for you and everyone else is like actually the best thing that you could do. It is like the highest service that you can have. So
that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, Morgan, you're next. Okay, the Three of Pentacles. So the Three of Pentacles is about teamwork and working together and finding like who you can actually trust to put your ideas and your work out in the world with. So whenever this card is coming up, this is like you're finding your people. Like you're finding who you can trust, you're finding who you like vibe with, you know, like who like you can actually put your idea out there and someone else is like, yes, I'm totally picking that up right now. So this is like you're finding this right now. You're definitely in that time where you can find your team who's actually going to help you do your work in the world and like put that into a like physical manifestation. The pentacles are always about they represent the earth element. So it's like, okay, who's going to help you actually create this thing that has been probably living in your mind and in your field for a long time? And like, you're like, okay, you can't do it alone. Like it can't just be me. You've gotten to a point where you really need to like bring on some other people. And so, yeah, you're definitely finding those people right now.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That definitely resonates. Definitely resonates.
Good. Beautiful. Yeah, this is actually, I'll tell you the cards that come before and after this, because that may help like, you know, do that journey sort of thing, describe that journey. So for the Nine of Wands, what comes right before this is the Eight, which is about momentum. It's like things just move really, really fast and you're like, oh, whoa, like here we go. I guess we're like on the ride and like we're going towards it. So that's what comes right before this time where you kind of have to be like, whoa, like, okay, let me back up a step and like see if this is right for me. And see like where I need to actually like ground myself in structure. And then the 10 comes right after this, which is when you actually have to figure out how to delegate all of those like things that you figured out. Okay, this is what I can carry, and this is what I need other people to carry, or what I need to put down to be of best service to myself and to the community. And that's what comes right after this time where you go internal. So that's for
is it like reflection?
The 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the 9 is like that reflexive. It's I think of the word reconnaissance actually when this card comes up, which is like a weird word for me to think about because it's like a battle word or like a war word. My boyfriend's super into like war history, and so that's like probably a word I picked up from him where I'm like, oh, I know what I get that word. It's like the 9 of wands, you know? So yeah, it's like that time where you're like, okay, I did a lot of stuff. A lot of things have been moving and flying around, and I need to like take a step back, reflect, you know, protect my own energy for a second here, and then figure out what is the best way to move forward. What do I need to put down? What do I need to delegate to some other people that may be actually in their highest good for them to pick up those things that you put down? You know, you don't have to actually carry it all. So I like to think about it like that too, because then you know what's coming. Like, you know where to step into once you have embodied the energy of, you know, the card that is current for you right now. So yeah, that's the 9.
Thank
That's
you.
the 9 of wands. And then for you, Morgan, with the 3 of pentacles, what comes right before this is the 2, which is about balance. It's about balancing, like, okay, I know I need to create this thing, but like, how do I balance that with being able to, you know, take care of myself? You know, it's like the work-life balance, or the like play and creativity versus like, okay, I have to like rest now. It's that balance that we have to figure out before we can even actually like figure out what we're creating, gather people around it, and be able to actually start pushing that out into the world. And then what comes right after that is the 4, which is structure. So, okay, you're going to create something, you're going to find your people, and then you're going to have to create that like almost like a deeper sense of balance where it's like, okay, how am I going to, I've balanced it all out, but how am I going to like structure it? Like, where am I going to put all these different things that I've now started to create? And you'll have like different boxes that you kind of have to start putting those things in once they actually start manifesting in the physical. So,
okay, so now this is, are odd numbers feminine? Because it would make sense. The 2 and a 4 would be masculine. The like Crystal's card was feminine. Mine's for, I don't know where it's like this is, yeah, like so odd numbers are feminine, even are masculine.
Yes, odd numbers do have a feminine energy to them, and masculine is, yeah, the even numbers. And then, yeah, there's like all this, you know, you can get into numerology and stuff with tarot, and it does all apply in there. You can do tarot theory and all that stuff. But yes, and that is part of like the thread and the balance as well. You know, like we're always ebbing and flowing between the feminine and the masculine, the yin and the yang, the dark and the light. And that's just another reason why it's so, you know, important for me to see it as a journey rather than just these isolated events.
I love that. It puts more of like tangible understanding to the tarot.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, okay. Because like Crystal doesn't read tarot either. And like we've both been like, I don't get it. And it's probably because we're both like, we want to get it right now because it's an art. And then you're trying to think about an art and like that's not, those don't jive. Like it's a felt, you gotta feel it. So this really adds a good layer of feeling to it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it's funny that you mentioned art because I have recently just started thinking, I mean, tarot is art. Literally, you have a literal deck full of pieces of art. So I think the way, like, if you would put that all in order, or even like when you get a new deck, they always like come in order, right? If you laid them all out, I almost see it as like an art gallery. Like, you know, when you go through an art gallery or an art exhibit, it's like it's an experience, right? Like the artist wants to set it up so that it's experience. You start here and you end here. That's like, you can see the tarot like that, basically. It's like, it starts at the Fool. It's like, oh, okay. And then you move all the way through. It's like literally walking through like the halls of an art gallery. Cause like literally this is just art. Yeah.
And then what are the differences between the major arcana? So like the first, how many are there? 8, 9?
So there's 22 major arcana cards. And what those are, yeah, I have one up. Okay, so like the world card that we had, this is the last, the final in the major arcana. And what those are, like the tarot follows a structure that is like structured like a regular deck of cards. You know, like it has, the deck of cards has suits and court cards. And then there are trump cards in a regular deck of cards, right? So the major arcana are like the trump cards, basically. And there are 22 of them. And those are like, energetically speaking, those are like the big energy cards. So those are going to be like, this is overarching over your entire life. This isn't just like, you know, about one little piece of your life or one day or one, you know, it's like a big energy. And
Ah,
then you have the suit cards, and there are 4 suits. You have the wands, the pentacles, the swords, and the cups. And those again follow like the suits, so like the diamonds and the hearts and all that stuff. And they each represent an element. And then they each have the 10 cards plus the court cards, the queen, the king, and the ace. So yeah, it's basically like if you would look at a deck of cards, it follows the same structure.
that's so fast. It seems so overwhelming. There's like so many moving pieces. I'm like, how do you decide like what
Oh,
is
I
what?
know. I know. And that's like, I mean, so when I first approached the tarot, I was actually gifted a deck, which is like what you're supposed to, you know, you're supposed to be gifted a deck. I don't really believe in that, but I was gifted a deck. I probably wouldn't have got into it if I wasn't gifted a deck. So I was gifted a deck and I had it for months before I even touched it. And one day I just pulled a couple cards. I had no idea what they meant. I Googled it and I was like, whoa, that is really accurate to what I've been going through. I guess this works. And I kept it like at that level for probably like 6 months, 8 months. And then I started, and I was doing polls for myself and just Googling, like, what does this mean? What does that mean? And I think I might have gotten a book. Like I went to like my, you know, metaphysical store and got a book on the tarot. And I started like looking it up and reading it. And then I went down this whole where I was like memorizing everything. I was like writing. I'm like, okay, this means this and this means this and all these keywords and stuff. And I got so overwhelmed by that that I like actually put it down for a long time. Like I was like, this is stupid. This is like, I was basically approaching it the same way as like memorizing the Bible, like Bible verses. And I was like, this is the same thing that I came from. I'm not doing it like this. And after I put it down for a while, I think it like needed time to sink in. I picked it back up and I was like, oh, I feel it now. Like all the information like integrated. And I was like, okay, I actually feel like I can do readings for people and not have to just Google it or look at the book or whatever. And so it needed time to like settle and integrate after I took in all the information, and needed time and space for me to put my own meanings on it. And then, yeah, when I started doing readings, it just like gets solidified, you know, as you start saying like, this means this, and people are like, oh my God, that's exactly what's going on in my life. That validation helps to solidify it. But yeah, that is why I wrote my book the way I did, because I don't want people to be overwhelmed. Like I want you to be able to just feel the energies and had that be your validation, you know, like know that that is correct, for you, as long as you can feel into the energy of it. and you know, weave those things together, that is what is going to be correct. There really is no correct answer.
I'm gonna
I
go
love
play
that.
piano for fun.
You're inspired.
Yes.
Good.
Like maybe I can feel
Yeah.
into it, like, you know, read the before and after and see. But yes, I'm absolutely gonna get your book. But I definitely want I want like a hard copy.
Yeah,
So
me
you
too.
know the book.
Yeah. September 12th is when you can order a real physical book. Yeah.
Actually, hold on. What day is this coming out? Okay, so this is coming out on the 10th.
Okay. Perfect.
So that's
So 2
perfect.
days.
Perfect.
Put it
So
on your calendar.
it's literally that week. How
Yeah.
alive is this?
No, I love it. Put it on your calendar. Journey through the Tarot, September 12th.
We'll link it in the show notes so that people can
Beautiful.
click on the Amazon link. And
Awesome.
is there a website? Well, we'll put your website
Yeah.
and like your
Yes.
Instagram, and then how people can work. So how can people work with you?
Yeah. So I do one-on-one work right now. So I do one-on-one readings. I do one-on-one tarot readings, one-on-one Akashic Records readings, which I call soul readings. And then I also do energy work. And that is one-on-one as well. But basically the way I do that is we have a consultation to actually kind of figure out what's going on for you. And then we tailor a plan specifically to you. So it's kind of, it needs to have a consultation. We need to figure out what you need, and then we'll make a, you know, package that is specific to you. Um, and then I also, in addition to everything, I have a course that I am working on.
Oh,
So I have it'll be an online self-paced course called Keys to the Radiant Way, which basically walks you through um, a journey basically of what to do like after you have a spiritual awakening. Like once you start tapping into your intuition, what do you do? So it walks
Beautiful.
you through tapping into your higher self, you know, doing that, the foundations, like what are chakras, what is yin yang, what are the elements, what is the zodiac, like super, super basic stuff. So that you can kind of like feel into what direction you want to go once you understand the basics. So yeah, that will be, I don't have a date for that yet, but that will probably be towards the end of the month, hopefully end of September. So
you know what? That might be basic, but that's super important.
yeah,
Yeah.
the reason I wanted to create that is because that's what I would have wanted. Like when
Yes.
I like had this awakening, left everything that I knew, I'm like, okay, am I a witch now? Like that's like what's on my TikTok. So I guess that's what I am. And it would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of headache, a lot of struggle, if I would have had a foundation to be able to then like move in a way that felt more in integrity and more aligned, rather than just like seeing what my Instagram algorithm was giving me and being like, maybe I'm like this person, I don't know. So yeah, the foundations I think are imperative once you start, because it isn't a religion, it isn't like a, you know, there aren't rules, like it's just like, okay, what do I do? So ultimately you figure out what you do, but if I can give you a little framework to work with, then that's awesome.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we have a question we want to ask you. We ask all
Yeah.
of our guests, and
Yeah.
just answer from your heart. There's no right or wrong way.
Sure.
So what does it feel like to you to have an empowered heart?
Mm. What it feels like to have an empowered heart is to not have to look outside yourself for validation, to know that like you are it, you know, like you came here to be a unique essence of, you know, of consciousness. Like you came here to have such a unique experience, and you actually don't have to look outside yourself or have anybody else tell you you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong. Like it's that feeling of like, no, like I am doing it right because I say I am doing it right. And you don't need anybody else to say like, oh, good job. Oh, do it this way. Oh, do it that way. No, like I know, and being so anchored in that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Crystal?
I love that question too. I've never, oh gosh, that like brings up a lot of stuff for me too. Thank you for asking that.
Well, it's the name of our podcast. And so
Yeah.
we started to ask each other that, and we find that like it changes week to week.
Yeah, it does.
Week, it's like, well, or sometimes it lasts a month, or like, but the energy changes as we grow and evolve.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it so much. It's beautiful.
Do you want to go next, Crystal?
Sure. Lately I have been feeling empowered by really anchoring inner peace and surrender, and trying to like detach from what is happening outside of me and not make it mean anything, and like remember that my reality is responding to my energy. So if it's something that I don't like, I can change it internally. So I've just been really trying to be the calm in the storm. Yeah. Bringing my energy back in. What about you, Morgan?
What your card said.
That's exactly what my card said.
I love that.
Yeah. I actually felt that really resonated with my business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I think I'm sort of on the same wavelength as Hannah right now, feeling so I'm really in I guess there was a major death and rebirth there was a tower moment and then a death and rebirth. And I'm in the in between of like life, but it's caused me, I've been given the gift of time right now, and it's caused me, and I was worrying, I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And it's like, well, why don't you just do nothing? And why don't you just see what happens when you do nothing and your mind is still? And what happens then? And that's really caused me to go really internal. And now I feel like I'm dating myself. And I actually wrote a book the other day, like not a long book, but like a short one still on the inner child and how to awaken your inner child and how to be your own muse of your life. And it just like channeled through me. And it's really remembering that everything is inside. And like that is huge for me because I've had major codependency patterns my whole life. So just discovering who I am really without work or this or that or all these things. It's just like, who am I? And it's really fun.
I love it. All these like little channeled books.
Yes. I know. Maybe I should ask you who your publisher was. Like it's like
yes.
It's gonna be like a journal, but it's like a triggering journal. Like it's a journal that gets you to ask questions that you're like, ooh, like I've definitely been ignoring that. Like I've definitely, it like teaches you how to stop abandoning yourself and really look at your life with like all of your eyes, like your third eye, your two eyes, like your honesty, and really ask those hard questions that maybe you probably don't want to, but if you do ask that question, answer it, you can change your life for the better.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Well, Hannah, thank you so much. This has been so enlightening. I'm so excited to get your book and read it. Like I'm gonna be working over here. I'm gonna be like with my pen and having fun and so.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been so fun. I've loved talking to both of you guys. It's been such a fun time.
So yeah, we'll have everything in the show notes if anybody wants to work with Hannah, and we will see you guys next time.
Awesome.